What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about challenges that Norway is going to have in the future. As an American, I don't have much insight into what Norwegians think about the future of Norway. So today, that sounded like a really interesting topic for me to learn about. So we have a question here that was posed. What do you think are the major challenges that Norway is gonna face in the upcoming years? And a lot of Norwegians actually answered this question. What are the challenges that Norway is gonna face in the upcoming years? You know, like I said, as an American, I have no idea what Norwegians worry about or what Norwegians worry about in the future. I think here in the United States, we have our own set of like worries and problems that we're focused on, but I have no idea about what the future of Norway holds. So I want to take a look at some of the top answers and comments here that Norwegians have said. Starting with, Norwegians are worried about the disappearance of cheap electricity, which could lead to the disappearance of the production of aluminum, Yara, and other companies. Oh wow, this is really detailed. I have to say. Some of this stuff I actually don't even understand. Norwegians are worried about the disappearance of cheap electricity in Norway. So right now, Norway gets electricity. I know Norway gets a lot of electricity from hydroelectric power, but also, what is this? Production of aluminum? Yara and other companies. Is this something that Norway is worried about in the future? Cheap electricity, like not being available? People don't want new dams. Oh, they don't want wind turbines or whatever else produces strom? But at the same time, they want everything to run on electricity. Really? Why is the current amount of hydroelectric dams and wind turbines and solar power and that kind of stuff, is that not sustainable for the future of Norway? Why would Norway be worried about this in the future? You can always pay the Swedes to build a couple of nice nuclear reactors for you, I guess. Honestly, reactors go offline every couple months. This is getting very, very detailed, which I kind of like. This is stuff I've never heard of before, ever. That Norwegians might be worried about cheap electricity going away. Which is interesting because I know Norway is considered to be one of the most progressive electrified countries in the world. Lots of electric vehicles. Losing cheap electricity in Norway would be a pretty big deal, actually, huh? What else do we have? Eldrebogen, and more Eldrebogen. The wave is coming, boys. What is Eldrebogen? Is this something I can look up? Eldrebogen? What does this mean? Population aging? Oh. Oh. Is that what this means? Eldrebogen? Maybe I can translate this. Okay, here we go. Let's translate this. The elderly wave, yes. So this is referring to the aging population in Norway. This is something that people are really worried about here in the United States, too. I didn't know this was a concern in Norway, but I guess that makes sense. Apparently, this is a big, big concern in a lot of countries all over the world. People are just not having as much children these days because times are tougher or because of inflation or whatever. Here in the United States, people are really, really not having as much children. So in the near future, there's going to be a lot of older people, a lot of people retiring, a lot of people out of the workforce that need to be taken care of, and that population is not being replaced by new children and young people, not at a rate that is sustainable. So this is actually spot on. This is something that Americans really worry about too. There's a word for it in Norway, Norwegian. Eldre Bugen. The wave is coming. Wow. Wow, wow. That's a really good one, actually. That's one that I can understand as well as an American. That is definitely a challenge that is coming for Norway and for the rest of us. Um, Populations are shrinking, essentially, for the first time in a very, very long time. Wow, that's a good one. This is really interesting. What are some other challenges that Norway might have in the future? The growing economic, political, and social differences are what concern me the most. Wow, this is another one that reminds me of stuff we worry about here in America. Norway has a lot of similar problems and worries as us Americans. Yeah, the growing political, social, economic differences. I didn't know that this was something that Norwegians dealt with too. This is really, really interesting stuff. I had no idea. Norway has a system that favors the rich, and our public system in its current state is reproducing these differences and hampering social mobility. The rich get richer. The poor stay poor. We have increasing number of both. Yeah, there's not as much middle class. That's true here in America. The rich have all the money. The poorest of the poor are way, way too poor, where it doesn't even make sense, and they need a lot of help. Um, and I can relate to this a lot. It's funny because Norway is like kind of known for everyone in Norway is rich. Everyone, all of Norway is so wealthy and rich. But obviously that can't be true. There has to be like some economic like divide. Some people have to be richer than others, and I certainly had no idea that economic, political, and social differences were becoming so big in Norway. Because I think we just hear a lot of great stuff about Norway. And not really, we never, as Americans, we never hear about these concerns. Um, we have a system that favors the rich. This is a global issue, not a Norwegian one. Middle class is shrinking, and the 1% is amassing on all wealth. Absolutely. I think that's 100% correct. So this is a Norwegian problem. This is also like a problem for Americans and everyone, I think. Yeah, yeah. So it makes sense. Like Norway shares the same problems as the rest of the world does. It's really just that electricity problem in the future that so far is specific to Norway. But all of this stuff I've never thought about. This is really interesting, actually. What are some other challenges Norway might have in the future? Resources. Really? This is another one about resources. With the discovery of phosphate deposits in Norway, there's little talk of this being declared, like the North Sea oil, as a state owned resource. Meanwhile, increased demand for the North Sea oil and gas reserves will deplete them faster. Norway saw peak oil in 2000. So, Norway, are we talking about Norway's ability to earn money by selling oil? Like the oil's finally going to run out and that's like a big money maker for Norway? Or are we talking about Norway actually using the oil itself to power Norwegian things with oil for energy? Maybe both is true. But Norwegians aren't worried about this yet because of phosphate deposits they've discovered. Norwegians are going to have to worry about the environment. Really? I thought Norway was being so good to the environment. Since the late 90s, every year, except for 6, have been above average temperature. Norway relies heavily on glacial runoff and winter snow to fill up the dams. Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. Okay. Norway relies on glaciers and snow to fill up the dams that run the hydroelectrical generation in Norway. So it's very, very, very important for Norway. Temperature and water and snow, because that all has to do with Norway generating electricity from Norway's dams. This will also affect water supplies it already has in Oslo and Ostfold. Infrastructure can be drastically improved, but takes time. The Increased extreme weather events, dry spells causing fires, flash flooding, and landslides. Oh my god. The environment, right. Right. This is just like changing climate change is going to affect Norway. Maybe affect Norway in a lot more ways than other countries because Norway really depends on certain temperatures being reliable and consistent in order for Norway to get hydroelectricity and water. That makes a lot of sense. And once again, Norway is going to be worried about an aging population, top heavy. Norway's birth rate has been under the replacement level. Right. So Norway, I mean, if a family doesn't have two children, they're not replacing the mom and dad. The population is going to go down if the average family doesn't at least have two kids, so that each parent kind of replaces themselves with two more humans. And Norway has been under that level. This will increase demand on healthcare. Yep. Yes, absolutely. Because there's going to be a lot of older people in Norway that need help, and not as many younger people in the workforce to pick up the slack. Yeah, this is a bit depressing. I kind of knew going into this that this topic was going to be kind of like, I don't know, not controversial, but like it's not a fun thing to think about what trouble you're going to have in the future, but it is very useful and productive. And I think it's good to start worrying now. So, what else, with that being said, what else is Norway worried about in the future? The cost of living for Ola and Kari Nordman? What does that mean? The last few years have seen substantial increases in energy cost, electricity, and food cost. Okay, so this I did not know about. I didn't know about this. Norway is having higher cost for electricity and for food. Is this because of inflation or because of something else? Um, Prices for electricity have increased and recovered. They're still higher than 2020. Um, and food prices have been increasing with little government regulation. Wow. I had no idea. No idea about a lot of this stuff. It's really cool that Norwegians are actually being very open and honest here. Because it's difficult to be self-reflective and talk about things that are maybe problems now or in the near future. Norway is going to have problems with energy crisis, zero innovation, blind politicians who care more about ideology than people, and Putin. Putin, that's a big one. That's one I've been seeing when I look at Norwegian news. I hear a lot about Norway preparing for conflict, possibly with Russia, hopefully not. Blind politicians. I don't know much about Norwegian politics. I know there's been some scandals in Norwegian politics recently. Where do you see Norway's innovation compared to Sweden and Denmark this decade? Is one country better than others? Innovation. Norway has oil, and politicians don't care as long as oil industry survives. So they're saying that Norway hasn't innovated much. Maybe Norway hasn't been forced to innovate very much because the oil has been working so well and so long for Norway. Why would you change that, really? Um, Qualifying for the World Cup and Euros. I don't know anything about football in the World Cup. Does Norway have trouble? Is Norway going to have trouble in the future qualifying for the World Cup? Okay. I know Norway has that really famous football player, right? And Euros? What does that mean? Um, Holland. Yes, we got Holland. Okay. Okay, fair enough. What else do we have here? Norway will have to worry about inflation due to food barons? What are food barons? I feel like I read that before here. Not seeming to have any regulation or limit on how much they can increase prices. They just do it because they can. Oh, so Norwegian food suppliers are raising prices of food in Norway just cause it can, and because of inflation, and just to make more money, they're raising the price of food. Of food, that's terrible. That's really scary because food is not like a luxury that you can choose to get or not. You need food. So raising the price of food just because they can, that is very scary. Military spending, we've been lagging behind. Russia is on our doorstep. Trump is showing us that we can't rely on the US all the time. Wow. Yeah, this is very, very real, very scary stuff there. I like to think that the United States would always support Norway. I'd like to think that, but I'm not really in control of who leads our country. Joining the EU, it seems inevitable. So this is something Norway might do in the future, join the EU. I know Norway famously is not part of the EU. While the import of cheap labor could be catastrophic for the economy, workers' rights, I believe global security dictates we need to join the EU at some point. Really? Uh, how is Norway joining the EU leading to a significant import of cheap labor? Huh. I don't know anything about this. I gotta be completely honest. I don't know. Maybe I should actually like do a video on that. Why Norway is not part of the EU. I think I need to understand that to even say anything about that. But interesting things that Norway is gonna have to think about, I guess. I don't know the pros and cons of that. I think ramping up energy production will be a challenge to tackle fast enough. Norway needs new sources of clean electric power to support the growth of new businesses. Wow. While also maintaining Norway's contribution to the energy supply chain security for Europe. So Norway is supplying energy and electricity to the rest of Europe, but Norway is also like gonna have trouble powering itself. Um, this is like not the first time that I've heard this. Norway is gonna have to worry about power and electricity. Why is that? Is it like the electricity is gonna go down after if you have dams and wind turbines and other stuff? Will that not work for the future? Or is Norway gonna need more? Is that the problem, that you need more? Norway needs to modernize the military, increase military spending. Yeah, it's doing that, actually. From what I've read recently in Norwegian news, Norway is increasing the military budget, so it's already thinking about the future of Norway's military and doing something. Too few workers and too many people receiving benefits. This seems like a big one, too. A really big one. And Norway has a lot of really great social welfare, social benefit programs, healthcare, and when you have a lot of elderly people who need those services, and you don't have as much people actually in the workforce generating money and growing the economy, it'll be tough to keep those government programs working because you need money. So I don't know. I don't understand all of this, but I have to say this was a really, really interesting topic that I wanted to take a look at and I wanted to try to understand. And I'm really grateful for the Norwegians who left these comments and talked about challenges that Norway is going to face in the upcoming years. That's a really interesting thing, and I think it's really productive to talk about it and plan for the future. I wish America would do that more. But as an American, I just wanted to see what Norwegians thought about the future of Norway. And there's a lot more things to be worried about than I thought. But I think Norway's going to, end up doing well for itself, or at least I hope that. I believe that to be true. Anyway, I enjoyed this quite a bit. If you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your opinion on challenges that Norway is going to face in the future. That'd be very interesting to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Norway and Norwegian culture, and learning things about Norway, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.